And so we begin episode 1 of the original Cutie Honey anime, which debuted on NET at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday, October 13th, 1973. Before we get into the story proper, though, we have to talk about the very first thing anyone sees and hears when they watch this show. The opening theme. I don't think anyone would dispute that the Cutie Honey opening is one of the all-time great Annie-song bangers. This song has been popular pretty much since day one. It has become a staple of Japanese karaoke, to the point where there are even articles complaining about how often people sing it. It has been used as the theme for almost every adaptation of the series to date. And that's not even getting into the numerous covers that have been done over the years by professionals and amateurs alike. This iconic theme song can be credited to a few different people. The music itself is by series composer Takeya Watanabe, whom we last heard doing music in Mahou no Mako-chan. The lyrics were written by the enigmatic Claude Q, real name Fujio Iwasaki, who first gained recognition in the advertising world and went on to become the broadcast chair at the Osaka University of Arts. And this is not related to Cutie Honey or anime, just thought it was a cool fact. Apparently in his post-Honey career, Mr. Iwasaki contributed to disaster relief efforts from the Great Hanshin earthquake of 1995 by designing and distributing simple red-framed posters that said, "We are here." These posters helped people displaced by the earthquake reconnect with their loved ones by posting their whereabouts in easy-to-see places. So, just to assure you that while this man did not write many other anime songs, he had more impact on the world than just writing about girls with tiny bottoms. And lastly, providing the stellar vocals was Yoko Maekawa, who has previously turned up in our timeline singing the first ending theme of Sally the Witch, Mahou no Mambo, and the opening theme of Princess Knight. We'll also be hearing her voice again when we talk about Majoko Megu-chan. Aside from the song just being unreasonably catchy and the opening animation looking instantly stylish, the lyrics really help lay down the tone and expectations of what you're getting into with this show. When the first words you hear are about a trendy girl with a cute bottom, you know you're in for at least a little bit of tongue-in-cheesecake, if you know what I mean. It also sets the stage for the, interesting push and pull this show has between cheeky flirtation and dubious consent. The lyrics seem to be simultaneously sung from the perspective of someone ogling Honey and beckoning her to look their way, and from Honey herself pleading with them to not stare at her or come any closer, but also in kinda like a cheeky fun way that implies she might also welcome the attention. I won't get into this any further here because there's going to be a whole other part of this project later on dedicated to all of the show's most uncomfortable aspects. But, let's just say for now that a song that is essentially Oh, she's saying no, but she totally means yes. Is a little, questionable, let's say. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fun song, but just put a pin in it for now, is all I'm saying. Now, on to the actual episode, which is called The Black Claw Grabs Your Heart, spelled out in jagged white text over a stylized black claw, well, grabbing a heart. And in case you're wondering, yes, the titles of almost all episodes in this series are similarly cool as shit, including subsequent titles like Fire Flames Dance in the Dark, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, and The Poisonous Flower Dies in Hell. Even if you somehow missed the opening sequence, this series signals right out the gate that it has style for days. In any case, after a brief opening establishing Panther Claw as a global threat, we begin our story proper. Honey Kisaragi is, as far as she knows, a normal teenage girl at a normal Catholic boarding school with normal friends and normal teachers. But she soon finds out that not all is as it seems. One day, while skipping out on school, don't ask, again, we will come back to this in a later part, she suddenly hears the voice of her father, Dr. Takeshi Kisaragi, coming from one of her earrings. Her father tells her that Panther Claw is coming for him, and she needs to get home right away. Honey is confused, but follows the warning and gets on a nearby scooter. When she realizes she doesn't actually know how to use the scooter, Dr. Kisaragi instructs her to touch the heart on her necklace and say the phrase, "Honey, flash." Again, Honey is confused, but trusts her father enough to do it, and...
Honey, flash!
There it is. You knew this wouldn't be a Nagai work without some big horny twist. Yes, Nagai trusted that boys would find Honey a compelling hero, but as just a bit of added insurance, he suggested that Honey should appear naked during her transformation scenes. You know, just 'cause. This was exactly the sort of thing Nagai was, quote-unquote, happy to draw as well. Convenient, that. Of course, the concept of nude transformations has since become a staple of the magical girl genre in both male and female-oriented series. Interestingly, though, this wasn't a trope that took off immediately. As we've covered before, the first nude transformations in anime happened in Marvelous Melmo in 1971, mostly as a byproduct of it being a sex education program as well as a magical girl show. A couple of years passed before these transformations happened again in Cutie Honey, this time with a more blatant titillation angle added. And from there, no other magical girl series would use the technique regularly again until Minky Momo in 1982, which introduced the stock magical girl transformation sequence as we recognize it today. And even then, Minky Momo was really the only series that seemed to use nude transformations until, well, Sailor Moon, after which the trope then became more commonplace. So yeah, point to all that being nude transformations. They're here, they're horny, and they're gonna be a big thing for this genre, but not for a couple more decades yet. Now, you may have noticed that during her transformation, Honey passes by a very surprised Seiji Hayami. He and Honey are both so surprised, in fact, that they both end up leaping several feet into the air and switching vehicles. Because that's for sure how that would work. No, seriously, you need to get used to this right now. If you are not on board for ridiculous displays of physics, you are not going to have a good time with this show, and frankly, what are you even doing here if not? In the wake of her transformation, Dr. Kisaragi explains that Honey now has perfect knowledge of all machines and can operate them as if they were a part of her. Honey still doesn't know what to make of all this, but feels emboldened by this new form, later named Hurricane Honey. Without further question, she speeds off toward home. After crashing through her living room window and beating up the Panther Claw goons that she finds there, the remaining goons beat a hasty retreat, leaving Honey to search for her father. It doesn't take long before she finds him, beaten and unconscious in the basement. Her father is dead. Eventually Seiji, having followed Honey from the highway, finds her in the basement. Honey briefly lashes out at Seiji in her grief, but eventually agrees to let him help her investigate Panther Claw. The two search the basement for clues and find a collection of dormant robots, among them a replica of Dr. Kisaragi himself. This replica plays a pre-recorded message for Honey. In it, Dr. Kisaragi breaks some shocking news to his daughter, that she is not human. Rather, she is a super advanced android, his greatest ever masterpiece, Cutie Honey. Despite Honey not being his real daughter, though, Kisaragi explains that he has always loved her as if she were. We then see a few brief flashbacks to Honey's childhood here. These images are not explained in the anime itself, but one of the tie-in Roman albums later confirmed that Dr. Kisaragi programmed these memories himself, wanting to give Honey the kinds of memories that any other normal human girl would have. Interestingly, this false memories trope is often used as a dark twist in sci-fi stories, such as The Twilight Zone, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, and Blade Runner. Here, though, it's used as a heartwarming gesture of love and the desire to give Honey a more human experience of life. Which is a neat twist, if still a little horrifying when you think about it too long. He goes on. Within Honey's body lies a powerful device called the Kuchu Genso Kote Sochi. This term has been translated a lot of different ways over the years, and for this video, we'll be going with the English DVD translation of Atmospheric Element Solidifier. This device can convert air particles into solid matter and vice versa, which is what allows Honey to change her form at will. She has 7 pre-programmed forms on hand, but the solidifier can easily modify her body and clothes in just about any way she wants. It could theoretically create limitless amounts of any type of matter. This is why Panther Claw attacked Dr. Kisaragi's home. They were aiming to steal the atmospheric element solidifier and use it to create endless supplies of gold, jewels, and weapons for themselves. In the end, Dr. Kisaragi urges Honey to use her abilities for peace and goodness above all, and then wishes her his final goodbye. Honey leaves the basement reeling in the wake of all this. She feels a rage boiling up inside her. And here she makes the declaration that will change the course of her life.
豹の爪パパを殺したあいつら許しておけない私はこの手で豹の爪の悪党を一人残らず倒してみせます
Now, there's a motivation you rarely see in a magical girl. Honey doesn't just want to protect people or uphold love and justice, although that's certainly a part of it. No, beneath Honey's cheeky, smiling appearance is just this pure, angry, ever-burning desire for revenge. And compared to her contemporaries, that's a refreshing angle to see. It gives Honey both a drive and a character flaw, unlike any other magical girl to date. And I kind of love it. So it comes as little surprise that when more goons return to the Kisaragi household later that night, Honey is ready for them. As the goons approach, spotlights snap on to reveal Misty Honey, a flashy 1970s pop singer who fights by throwing roses and breaking faces with her fierce high heels. And you gotta respect a girl who sings her own theme song while beating up robot gangsters. Honey finishes the goons off with one of her signature weapons, the Honey Boomerang, which forms out of a ribbon on her upper arm. Upon defeat, the robotic goons all disintegrate into thin air, just to reassure the kids watching at home that Honey didn't just murder a bunch of people. Don't be silly. No, it doesn't matter if they can talk and bleed and show concern for each other's safety and sometimes appear to have independent thought. Because robots. It's all okay if they're robots. Yep, definitely. So more goons arrive at the house alongside their leader for the episode, Black Claw, a female android with Wolverine-like claws and a big, furry head claw. Yeah, Gonagai really seems fond of these things. Panther's-Aura has one too. It kind of grows on you. As Honey fights more goons, she transforms 2 more times. First up is the blindingly green Idol Honey. Really should be called Stewardess Honey, but Idol Honey it is, I suppose. This is probably the least used out of all of Honey's quote-unquote main forms, partly because it's unclear what advantage being a stewardess offers in most situations. She does have a cool bola, at least, so that's something. And next comes Fancy Honey, a high-class fashion model who fights with sharpshooting cigarettes and her dashing good looks. Fancy gets a bit more use over the course of the series, since she is useful for fitting in at the kinds of bougie places that Panther Claw often attempts their robberies at. There's not much point to her being in this scene other than to show off, but to be fair, I feel like Honey's earned the right to show off a little at this point. Elsewhere, Black Claw nearly decapitates Seiji in her search for the solidifier, then finds Honey. Black Claw blocks an incoming attack, and a goon manages to grab Honey and restrain her. Black Claw goes in for the kill, only to realize she's just stabbed her own goon in the face.
Fatality.
Turns out Honey wasn't as trapped as she appeared, having managed to flip herself over the goon's head while still facing Black Claw. Again, what did I tell you about physics? Honey bamboozles her enemy with another transformation, this time donning a yellow turtleneck, driver's cap, and scarf, before kicking Black Claw with enough force to send her flying through some metal railings. When Honey attacks again, Black Claw grabs for her, but Honey does another truly confusing flip, resulting in Black Claw only getting her turtleneck. Cut to Honey hanging from her knees from a tree branch with her bare breasts facing away from the camera, and she retorts, yes, I see what you did there, that's very good. Flash Honey, or Scoop Honey as she's known in some adaptations, is another form that tends to be less useful for fights and is usually more for tactical purposes. Posing as a photographer or journalist is often a useful move for Honey in later episodes. Her camera does make for a surprisingly useful swinging and blinding weapon, but otherwise, yeah, this form is mostly just an excuse to see Honey in a cute hat and bell-bottoms. Not that that's a bad thing, mind you, but still. And then we get a truly big moment, one that sets a precedent for the rest of the series and all other adaptations after it. We get the speech.
ある時は花形レーサー、またある時はスチュワーデス、そしてモデル、歌い手、キャメラマン。だがその実態は愛の戦士、キューティーハニーさ。
Yes, in almost every episode, we go through at least 2 or 3 alternate forms of Honey before the big showdown at the end, just so that Honey can do this speech. It's never exactly the same speech twice, but it always follows a consistent structure. The villain of the day, having reached their wits' end with Honey, will demand to know who she is. Honey responds, often with a cocky laugh, and runs down a list of the forms that she's used in the episode.
今頃おかしいと思ったの？地獄の土産に教えよう。私はね、ある時は如月ハニー、ある時はお寺の尼さん、ピエロ、小ダンサー、カーボーイ、女ターザン、購入士、海賊。
Before transforming one last time and revealing her true identity.
愛の戦士、キューティーハニーさ。
This style of speech does not come from nowhere, by the way. Once again, Bannai Tarao was clearly the inspiration here. It may be slower paced, but the format for Tarao's dramatic reveals is virtually identical to Honey's.
何者だある時は固めの運転手、ある時は流しの歌い手、またある時は私立探偵タラオ番内。しかしてその実態は正義と真実の使徒藤村泰造。
The declaration at the end there of him being an apostle of truth and justice is pretty close to Honey's declaration of being a warrior of love as well. although it's more likely that Warrior of Love Rainbow Man contributed the exact phrasing there. Similar dramatic speeches would remain common in both shonen anime and live-action tokusatsu thereafter, and would form a thread connecting Cutie Honey's Warrior of Love speech to, again, Sailor Moon. Getting back to the episode, Cutie Honey and Black Claw begin their battle in earnest. They trade blows for a while, and it's all very exciting. Honey fights with a sword called the Silver Fleurette, and at one point she shows off another of her abilities, an electric attack called Honey Beam. Things get tense, however, when Black Claw manages to pin Honey to the wall with a rocket-powered claw. The action enters slow motion as Black Claw lunges in with a giant, monstrous hand. And in this critical moment, Honey kicks off the wall, hooks her foot around her sword, does another confusing flip to get the sword into her free hand, and then... Black Claw bleeds bright green blood, howls in pain, and explodes to smithereens, once again assuring the viewers at home that this brutal, bloody stabbing was not inflicted on an organic being and therefore is 100% okay to show to children. As Honey is left staring in awe at what she's done, we cut to Sister Jill's lair, where she chants the name Fireclaw over an eerie green flame. After the dust has settled, Honey sets out to leave, telling Seiji that she needs to return to her dorm soon or else face the wrath of her teachers. This conversation is weirdly nonchalant considering all that Honey's experienced today. Either this girl is still riding an adrenaline high, or her ability to bottle up emotions is second to none. Possibly both. But suddenly, a figure shines a light on the two. Gasp! Or not. This turns out to be Junpei Hayami. What is he doing out this late? How did he know Seiji was here? Again, who knows? Regardless, Junpei is very interested to see his dorky brother hanging out with such a cute girl and wants to be introduced. Seiji warns Junpei not to get too familiar with his girlfriend, or else he'll be sorry. And as the two continue to quarrel, Honey slips away and walks off into the rainbow twilight of the city, with the two horn dog brothers trailing after her, as they will continue to do for the rest of the series. The episode ends off with the series ending theme, Yogiri no Honey, or Honey of the Night Fog, which really doesn't get enough love compared to the more well-known opening. This low-key, almost lounge-like number, also sung by Yoko Maekawa, feels like a perfect way to come down from the heights of absurdity that a typical Cutie Honey episode tends to get to, and has a lot of really lovely art of Honey in all her various forms. The lyrics by Akira Ito are also a contrast to the very cheesecakey lyrics of the opening, instead focusing on the sadder side of Honey's character. They paint a picture of a girl who has experienced loss, feels lonely and adrift because of it, and yearns vaguely for connection, symbolized by someone, somewhere, calling out her name. As far as I know, the song was only ever used a couple times after this, both times as an insert song. The first was in the 1990s reimagining Cutie Honey Flash, sung by Salia, the same artist who performed the opening in that version. And the second was in the live-action Cutie Honey movie in 2004, sung by J-pop megastar Koda Kumi, who likewise did the opening in that movie. It's a damn shame that it hasn't come back more frequently, because this ending song really feels as perfect for Cutie Honey as its opening does, and it really deserves to have more covers. In any case, with episode 1 now in the can, that sets us up quite well for the rest of the series going forward. In the next part, we'll look at the basic structure of how the show as a whole works, as well as dig deep, perhaps a little too deep, into the visual style and animation techniques at play in the series. Hope you all look forward to it, and I'll see you all then! thanks so much again to all my patrons who support me every month. I wouldn't be doing this if not for the generous support of viewers like you. You can support my work on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/AaronCerise. You can make small one-time donations at ko-fi.com/AaronCerise. Or you can always share this video and leave a like or comment to show your support. Thanks so much again, stay well, and goodbye until the next installment of Mahou Profile Cutie Honey, the miniseries.